guys, it's Gamer Ahmer here. So this video is actually inspired by my buddy NES Addict on YouTube, so I'll go ahead and drop his information below so that you guys can check out his channel where he does 3 of his all-time favorite video game pickups ever. So I decided to do my own video where I chose my top 10 video game pickups that I've scored over the years while hunting out and about looking for these awesome video game scores. So let's go ahead and check them out. So these pickups are among some of my favorite items in my video game collection. Now, what actually classifies these as my all-time video game favorite pickups are actually going to be some of the ones that maybe I was not looking for, some that were totally unexpected while video game hunting, and some that were just so inexpensive, so cheap, that I couldn't pass up on these deals. And I'm just so thankful that I was able to find some of these items for the little amount that I paid for them, as this hobby can get very expensive very quick, especially if you're in a particular area that doesn't have deals all of the time. So we'll just start out with a couple of my favorites right here. So for this first video game pickup, you'll actually see this vintage Nintendo Game Boy sign. Now this is actually a fully licensed Nintendo product, and this is actually a very expensive light for the Nintendo Game Boy, and one would actually pay over $1,000 to get this item in their collection, but I paid just a mere fraction of the price, and I actually found this local to me. So this particular item was actually featured on one of those apps where you can post any items for sale, and it wasn't actually advertised as a Nintendo item. This was actually just advertised as a store display or a sign, and this item actually sat for over a month. It was actually a couple months that it sat on that app, and I was actually fairly new to that app at the time. So when I saw this item listed for sale for just a couple $100, I messaged the person, and they got back to me immediately and said that I was the only person who actually asked about this in that time frame. So I went ahead, met up with the guy, I bought this item, and I scored an amazing deal on it. I didn't have to pay all of that money that you generally would for any store display signs, neons, kiosks, etc. So this is pretty awesome, and even on the back here, it says that this was actually produced on May 22nd of 1991. So this is just an amazing store display and such a great vintage piece in my collection. So I can't believe I scored it for the price that I did, and I'm not exactly sure where to put this in a collection currently. So if you guys have any ideas on where to display this at, if you've watched my game room tour, then go ahead and drop a comment below and let me know where I should display this item at. I don't want to keep having it tucked away in the closet. I'd actually really like to display it, so just go ahead and let me know. And then on to this second item that you see here, we have this original Magnavox Odyssey console. So here we have this first home console, and this was just an amazing find on Craigslist. I actually got it for less than $100. It came with tons of extras. Everything is still perfect on the inside. It has all of the overlays, all of the cards, and everything else that came with this original video game console. And the gentleman that I actually picked it up from, he said that he got it for Christmas the year it came out. Him and his brother actually played it, and then they put it back in the box and just had it stored away ever since. So this thing is in very great shape. Can't believe I actually found this one local to me. I didn't have to pay an arm and a leg, and it's not yellowed, it's not in bad shape, it's actually really great looking, and everything that's included with it, we have this pretty awesome Magnavox Odyssey shooting gallery game. So this comes with that shotgun, and it comes with all of the games and everything else. But this is personally one of my favorites because this is just an awesome piece right here. So I'll go ahead and take it out of all of the packaging and everything that came with it. So here we actually have this really cool shotgun, and I especially like it because it actually makes that clicking noise like a realistic gun. So this is definitely pretty awesome, and this is in beautiful shape as well. And it also came along with tons of Atari items. So this was just another one of my favorite pickups that I scored, and those were actually both local. Now, while thinking about some of my favorite video game pickups, I actually remembered quite the day that I had when I went to my local Toys R Us for the last time. So when I went there, they actually had everything closed off. The entire store was shut down. There was just a few managers and other people in the store as someone had came in, made an offer on everything that was left in the store, and they actually gave me permission to go through the dumpster. So that day, I actually had a great time going through the dumpster. I found some pretty awesome Toys R Us original store display signs that they had posted all over the end cabinets of some of the rows that they had filled of toys. So those two items that I actually found, those end cap pieces, were just great additions to the game collection. Still have not found a spot for them just yet, but those were some of my personal favorites as I actually went to my local Toys R Us. I was able to score them from there, and then of course that awesome "Please return your cart here" sign that is metal. It's in beautiful shape. I actually got that as well on my last trip to Toys R Us, so you guys can check out that video as I'll go ahead and post that link. And that was just a great fun time, great experience, and it was one of those somber moments when I got to actually say goodbye to my Toys R Us, where I spent several years going back and forth there. I remember going through the catalogs with my family around Christmas time, and I would go ahead and circle everything that I wanted from Toys R Us. Of course, I'd get mostly video game items, and it was just a crazy time that I had, and I really enjoyed it and had a lot of fun. And then next up we have this fourth item. So this right here is a pretty awesome Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and this I actually got from a local game store near me, and sadly it has shut down over the years. But this right here is the Super NES Killer Instinct set. So this box is one of my personal favorite display boxes, and this actually would have came with the console as well. So this says the Super NES Killer Instinct set includes Super NES Control Deck, one Super NES controller, the Killer Instinct game pack, and Killer Cuts music CD. So this is just a really cool box, and it's actually one of my personal favorites. When I went to my local video game store, they actually threw this in with one of the purchases that I made there. So this is one that often goes for a good bit of money. And on the back here, it actually has this proof of purchase on the back. It has all of these pretty awesome images on here. This whole Play It Loud campaign that they did, where I even have the video game jacket that matches. This is just a really awesome display piece, and of course I loved playing Killer Instinct back in the day. I remember playing it on the arcade machines with some of my family members, and we just had a blast playing this game. So of course this definitely made the list, as this is just one of my favorites, and the box is in very great shape. There aren't really any dents or creases all in the box, and it's not really scuffed up like you generally see. So this is in beautiful shape, and I just can't believe I scored it for such an amazing deal. And then on to this pretty awesome Magnavox Odyssey 2 store display sign. So this actually lights up, and I found it local to me in Baltimore, Maryland, downtown in the city, at this really awesome secondhand store that they have, where there are tons of pretty awesome display items. Not too many video game items. I actually went down there for this event that they had, and when I checked out this store, I knew I would find just one video game item in there. I found several vintage toys, but I didn't actually find anything until the very end. This sign was actually tucked away between some Budweiser and other drinking signs that they had. And when I pulled this sign out, I was just in disbelief. I'd never seen one ever before, and I didn't know if it was authentic or not. So I took it to the front and I asked the gentleman how much it was. He said that there was a sign on it that said over $175, I think, but he said it was on the original box that came with it. And of course the box had disintegrated over time, and he actually knocked the price down over half, and he was able to actually turn it on, and the original light bulb is inside of this sign. You just turn it on, and it took a minute, but it actually lit right up, and I knew that I had to have it in my video game collection, as this is just a beautiful piece. You have this Magnavox Odyssey sign that would have been displayed back in several retailers back in the day that actually sold tons of Magnavox appliances and even the video game. So this, where it says quality in every detail, I just knew I'd fall in love with it. The colors are so vibrant when it lights up, and it just has that old vintage feel. So that is by far one of my favorite signs in my entire collection, and I'm just so excited that I found it, as I'll probably never get rid of that sign. It's one of my absolute favorites, and I would save this sign over several of the others any day. Now, up next, we actually have this pretty awesome Sega store display. So this piece I actually found on Craigslist. It was located in another state that wasn't too far away from me. And this thing was actually advertised for several months. No one had messaged the seller except for me, and when I did, I saw that it was listed for about $150. Now this was actually one of my very first video game store display items that I added to the game collection, and I messaged the seller. I told him I was interested in it. He said that he had several other of these exact cabinets. He even had one that had just these little spinny things on it, but since he was a music producer, he could actually use that one for all of his CDs that he produced. So this one I actually picked up in Delaware. I remember borrowing a pickup truck to go get this thing, and of course the pickup truck didn't have any air conditioning in it. It was a pretty hot day, but on top of it, it was raining. So I remember showing up there, I was completely soaked. It was a miserable day outside, but the second that I saw this video game display, I knew it was coming home with me. It just loaded up perfectly fine in the pickup truck, and it has this really awesome Sega sticker right at the bottom, and then all of these pretty awesome things right on the front. They just turn. So pretty much what would happen is, back in the day in Walmart, you would have all of the new releases of Sega Genesis games right in the front part here. And of course it would draw your attention to it because of those big new release signs. So you would be able to pick out which game you had interest in. You could flip it around to the back side where you could read all of the back of that particular case, and you would contact one of the Walmart employees who would use one of the keys that they have, open up this cabinet, and then there would be their back stock on the inside. So I actually use this for a lot of my Sega games. I have my Sega Genesis games in there, my Sega Master System, Sega Game Gear, and Sega 32X games, along with various other boxes. So this is a pretty large display, as it goes back pretty deep, and it just looks really great with these pretty awesome spinning parts on here. Of course, the Super Nintendo did some sort of display that was similar to this, so just having such an older style piece and a great store display item in my collection is just great. And when I actually went to go pick it up, he actually lowered the price because he felt bad for me because I had to travel in the rain and it was hot outside. So I actually got this for about $100, which is just unheard of today. So this is another great piece in my video game collection. Now on to one of my favorite little areas in the arcade room that's next to my huge video game room. So this is actually a Nintendo GameCube Kiosk. This is by far one of my best video game pickups, as I scored 2 of these Nintendo GameCube Kiosks from the same person. They actually listed these on Craigslist for $250 each. So of course I messaged the seller, I told him I could come pick these up right away, and I actually scored both Nintendo GameCube Kiosks for $250 each, and these were at a dental office about an hour or so away, so it wasn't too far. And I actually had my brother go pick both of these kiosks up, and it came with tons of extras. This is the original GameCube system in here that plays all of the demo discs. So it actually came with a demo disc for each system. It came with brand new controllers that I actually swapped out and put onto this kiosk, and I actually sold the second GameCube kiosk as I kept the one that was in much better shape, had brighter lights and everything on here. This thing is 100% complete and it's in beautiful shape, and I used the money from the other one to go ahead and fund one of my other video game kiosks. So this was just an amazing find. You don't see these sell for that cheap nowadays, and to find something with these original controllers on it, to find an extra set of controllers, the instructions, all of the baggies and demo discs and everything else with it is just unheard of. So this was another great score where I wasn't even looking for this particular kiosk. I was just looking for some more store displays, and I just stumbled across it. So this was a great find and one of my favorites in my collection. And then above me, you'll actually see that pretty awesome Mario Kart Double Dash banner. So there's actually a great story about this banner. So on Facebook Marketplace, I actually found this pretty awesome Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3DS standee. Now it was listed for about $75, and it came with everything complete on that standee. It looked like it was in fairly good shape. It's about an hour and a half away from me. So of course I messaged the guy who was selling it. He was away at college, just wanted to get rid of some of his video game collection items because he was going to be moving across states after college. So he was just getting rid of some things. I asked him if he had anything else for sale. Of course he answered that he had this pretty awesome Mario Kart Double Dash for the Nintendo GameCube banner. He also had this pretty awesome placemat for the GameCube era as well, and this pretty awesome Nintendo DS kiosk thing that was pretty awesome looking. I didn't know much about it at the time, and I asked him for prices on everything, and he said $25 each. So I was just in shock. I've never seen these items sell for that inexpensive, and I told him that I would be on my way to pick everything up. He was happy with the price. He said he knew he could get more money for the items, but he just wanted to let everything go. So I added this pretty awesome banner, and it's by far one of my favorite video games out there, and that's actually one of my favorite Mario Karts, as I spent countless hours playing that as a kid. I went through, I beat every single thing just so I can unlock that golden car and everything else. So that really is a pretty awesome display piece, and it looks great alongside this kiosk and some of the other GameCube standees that I have in my collection. And it's one of the items that I didn't pay an extreme amount of money for, like I have on some of my other video game displays and banners. So next up, we move on to this, the Suffering video game standee. So this is actually a full-size video game store display item that would have been used back in the day to help promote The Suffering, which was released on the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox. So this game is actually a really crazy horror-style game, and this was one of my favorites to play back in the day. It just had a really great story behind it. It was pretty scary, and I enjoyed it. So the second that I saw this posted on Craigslist for only $35, I jumped on it. I actually drove a couple hours away to Pennsylvania, and I met this really awesome guy who works on these horror movies and creates these pretty awesome budget films and things like that. They even had a book and everything that was written. So this is just a really cool display piece. He even displayed his right near his Carnival arcade machine, which I have one of those in my video game collection. And he was pretty excited to know that it would be in the same area as that pretty awesome arcade. So this is just a great display piece, and even though it's a little hard to see the full size of it, it's actually pretty close to my height. It's actually a little bit shorter than me, and this display piece is just so beautiful. It really has this creepy effect to it. We have this guy on the front. He's being electrocuted in the chair. We have these pretty crazy looking characters on the side there. There's some people trapped in here and they're reaching out. So this is just a really creepy game. And to find this full-size standee for only $35 is a great deal. This is one of my more memorable pickups and one that I scored for such a great deal, as usually I spend hundreds of dollars on some of the other video game store displays, and some of them are just so expensive. It's quite often that I pass on them. So this is just a really cool display piece, and it looks great in the collection, especially close to my new Xbox kiosk. So this is just another great piece and one of my most memorable items. And then of course on to one of my favorite arcade machine pickups. So this arcade machine was actually the cheapest of the bunch, and I actually scored it from a pool hall that wasn't too far away from me. I scored it through Craigslist, and they had tons that they were getting rid of so that they could go ahead and expand their pool hall, add several more pool tables, and they just didn't really have the market for arcade machines. So I scored this pretty amazing arcade machine. It's the Time Crisis Crisis Zone arcade machine. It has that foot pedal action, that machine gun action. It's a single player game, but it really just pulls you right in when you're playing it. You just dump those quarters into that machine trying to beat it. It's one of my favorite light gun machines, and definitely a great arcade machine, a whole lot of fun, and I scored it for less than $200. So those are my top 10 favorite video game pickups that I've found over the years while video game hunting, and these items are just among some of my favorites in my video game collection. Now, these ones aren't worth the most amounts of money or anything like that. Some of them were just such amazing deals and had great stories behind them, and I just had a lot of fun going and picking these items up that I figured I'd make a video about it and add 10 of them in this video. So once again, I got this idea from a buddy of mine. I'll go ahead and drop his channel information below. He goes by NES Addict on YouTube. That's NES Addict. And he did his top 3 video game pickups ever. So I figured I would do some of my favorites and some that just had some great stories along with them in my collection. Some of these I will never ever get rid of, and these will be with me because they are just some of my favorite pieces in the entire collection. Some I haven't seen very many before, and some are just really fun pieces to add to the game collection. So of course, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and check out my other videos and stay tuned for more.